we're in a spiritual battle, I think, objectively. I mean, the sign of demonic oppression and the signs of miracles are objective measures, in my view, of the presence of the supernatural.
Right.
So, but we're in a spiritual battle, and I think a lot of people, they have negative thoughts. I've had, I was struggling. We were talking before this show about some things. I was like, I don't know, like, is this prudence in my mind being like, oh, is this some form of humility or prudence? Or is this like just getting beat up by the evil one, right? Or just kind of like, being a little bit of a punching bag, right? And some temperaments, I think, can be more prone to being susceptible to certain voices, to even demonic influence. Well, actually, I'll ask you that. Do you think that is true, by the way, that certain temperaments, personalities might be prone to vulnerabilities?
Basically, one of the things that is important to learn as a psychologist and exorcist is that Satan's an opportunist. He's a good psychologist, a diva one, but a good psychologist. He knows what your buttons are, and he's going to take those and tweak them. He knows you're a mother. And he knows you probably have a few little questions about your competence. So he's going to tell you, hey, Lila, you're a lousy mother. And by the way, if you keep up in this ministry, you're going to put your kids in danger. So he's going to twist that. And he's going to.
Can he provoke other people to say negative things to the person that he wants to hurt the person with?
He certainly can. As a matter of fact, there's this category we call minions. And there really are minions.
Not the good ones.
No, Satan really does have minions. And it's quite striking. For example, we had a woman who was possessed. So she's in church before Mass starts. In comes another woman who she doesn't know before Mass starts. The woman sits in front of her, turns around, looks at her and says, give it up. He says, Satan wins, and she walked out.
She literally said Satan wins?
Satan, just give it up. Satan's
give
going
it
to
up,
yeah. So basically, and she did, and then another, so that Satan sent her. See, they didn't know each other. We call that occult knowledge. See, she's a minion of Satan. Satan sent her to try to dissuade this woman from going to an exorcism. And I've had this happen more than a few times where minions of Satan who are actually doing Satan's work will and now so those people know it. They know they're minions of Satan. I think there are other people who are doing Satan's work and don't realize it. But yeah, when you're under the sway of the evil one, he's going to try to manipulate you to do bad things.
So I think the question with discernment then too is it's not just what we are being maybe afflicted with. Mm-hmm. It could be things that we're tempted to do that afflict somebody else.
Sure.
Does Satan do that?
Oh, yeah, sure. He's always tempted us to do bad things.
How sophisticated are his schemes?
Yeah, he'll do anything God allows. And God does allow him to do a lot, but there are limits, and which are critical. Because if there weren't limits, that he'd rip us apart, torture us, and kill us. Which is why you don't want to go to hell, by the way, because there are no limits in hell of what Satan can do to you. So there are limits. But yes, he is always tempting people to do bad things. Now, for example, I'm personally convinced that this lone wolf terrorism thing in this country is probably at least 80% inspired by the demons. Now, obviously, many of these people have psychological conditions, of isolation, and anger, and some narcissism, whatever. But he takes those people and then he manipulates them. So, what could be more demonic than going into a school, shooting little kids, and then killing yourself? Is there anything more demonic than that? And let's face it, you talked about the spiritual battle being out front. 100 years ago, no one even thought of that. The IRA never went into did things like that. The great terrorists didn't used to do that sort of thing. Even the terrorists wouldn't go into a school.
There were a lot. Everybody had a gun like 150 years ago. Guns were like household guns on the wall. Like it was much more. It wasn't that there weren't a lot of guns around. It was a different time.
So I think that it's a sign of a demonic affliction and a demonic program. You go into a school, shoot everybody up, and then kill yourself.
But do you think the devil gets that power to sort of create copycats with these different school shooters because he's tempting people versus what the last guy did? So there's this sort of
I think there is that
there.
And when you look at people who profile these individuals, I think if we stopped publicizing these things, I bet you they would dry up. This is going to be my moment in the sun. I'm going to be a hero. I'm going to go in and start shooting people, and I'm going to get the national news. I think if actually we stopped publicizing this completely, it would attenuate it quite a bit.
I have a question about other acts of violence and demonic possession or oppression. But I before that, what you just said is really interesting. If this wasn't as publicized, these acts might dry up or there'd be less of them. What is the role of a Christian in evaluating or even discussing evil acts or evil, people, basically people being evil? I obviously do pro-life work. We're repeatedly exposing the evil of abortion, the evil of the abortion industry, helping people to see the truth of the value of the baby. But I do think there is a media sensationalism around evil today. I mean, the headlines are captured by the most evil things that people do. And too much of that diet can't be good for anyone, right?
Right, yeah.
What do you think what do you think devil is involved with in that kind of space, and what's the correct posture for the Christian?
Well, this is a complicated question, but there is this excessive focus on Satan, and implicitly, society almost thinks of this as a dualistic universe. There's God and there's Satan; they're kind of equal. That's what Satan thinks of himself. I'm like God. He thinks he's equal to God, and narcissists love, focus on them. Yeah, there's a lot of it, and he's getting a lot of attention, but it's the wrong kind of attention in some ways that people are. I just did a little podcast on my own the other day, and I talked about, are you afraid of Satan? Fear of Satan feeds him, and that's one of the things that we need to teach the possessed. Don't be afraid of Satan, although they're terrified in the beginning. So fear and anger, unforgiveness feeds the demons. And you got to set us. You got to get rid of that. Fear.
So if he's coming at you, just be like,
you're
a loser.
Dust. You are a loser.
You're stupid.
He's a loser. You're dull. And they're boring, by the way. I tell them that. You're boring, and you're dull, and you're stupid.
Should you laugh at this? Here's
the thing I would say about that.
What's the correct posture?
Some guys will do that, but I don't. Okay. In other words, I think it's important that we're always Christians. And that we don't, I don't mock Satan, but I tell him the truth. And that's what an exorcism is. My senior exorcist told me once years ago. He said, an exorcism, you pour the truth down the demon's throat. If you actually read the rite of exorcism, it just tells them the truth. You did lost. Reus es. You're guilty. It's not God's fault. It's your fault. And you are going to be suffered for it. And you're going to be judged for this. Jesus has smashed your kingdom. And you're nothing.